Welcome, fellow model raritors, to our next project, which you already know from the title. What we're going to do today, what we have today, is a couple of old Athearn blue box cabooses, wide vision cabooses. And I am going to start with a coat of primer, and you'll see that in just a second here. Before I get too far into it, wait a second, don't get ahead of myself. Yeah, these are Athearn blue box cabooses that I stripped down. They were painted Burlington Northern. They were custom painted too before. I could see the decal edgings. I had to take them apart and strip them down. I use to strip model paint. Most of the times it'll come off really well with brake fluid. Brake fluid with a little bit of heat. You have to watch out. Some plastics will get crazed by the brake fluid, so you have to be very careful. Don't overdo it. So here's the chassis for one of them right there, and I'm going to have to do some work on that. I can see because I think the ladders and such are supposed to be painted green. So before we get to the green paint, I'm going to have to do that. Now for paint, we stripped off the old paint. We got bare plastic. I'm going to start off with this Vallejo surface primer, which is an acrylic. I hope I have thinner for it. I don't know. I have some Tamiya thinner here. I don't think I have any Vallejo thinner at hand. I don't see any. Although I do have some surface primer by Tamiya too. So hopefully this stuff is thin enough out of the bottle, and I think it is. Then for what our next coats will be, the next color will be this Paasche S. It's a Maine Central yellow, and unfortunately, sorry, Paasche S paints are no longer available. And then the roof and cupola will be painted Sylvan or Southern Railroad green, Southern Sylvan green. Those are our official Northwestern Vermont Model Railroad Club colors. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to have to turn on the fan. It's going to get a little bit loud in here. I will try and warn you and or turn down the volume on the recording when I'm editing, because the air compressor is right underneath us and I'm wearing hearing protectors. The fan's coming on now. It's going to get a little louder. Yeah, I think that'll work fine. I have painted literally thousands of model trains over the years. I can look at a paint and pretty much tell whether it's going to work or not, just by the viscosity of it pouring out. Okay, I'm going to hit the compressor switch. Coming now. Let's open up. There we go. More pressure. Okay, looks good. Okay, I think we have a pretty good primer coat on there. I've got one more to do. Sorry, I have to have the tripod over my right arm here, right shoulder. And since I'm right-handed, I'm going to be covering up the model while we're painting. Unfortunately, I can't put you on the other side because, well, there's a cabinet right there to my left. So here goes with the compressor. So I think we have 2 good coats on these cars. I was reading the instructions on the primer before I started, and it said to allow at least an hour dry time before putting another coat on. So it's going to be another hour. Okay, we're back, and as you can hear, the fan is going. We're in the spray booth. I've got some paint in the little paint cup, but it's pretty thick. I'm going to have to thin it down some. See how that looks. Now the cabooses have been sitting in a sunny window for an hour and a half or so, and there's very little in the way of odor coming off of them at this point. All I have to do is paint yellow from the roof down to agitate the paint. I like to see if I can do it here. Hold your ears. So I'm holding my finger over the tip and pushing down, letting the air come through and blow up through. Let's see if that's working now. Oops, plenty thin enough. That'll work. Okay, let's give it a whack here. Not getting very good coverage. A little more. Okay, I backed you up just a little bit. Get a little bit more field of view here. Compressor's coming on. Make sure I have good coverage up in there. I also want to get good coverage coming down on the window. Whoa, that's too wet. And that's too wet. I'm not going to put any more on that side. I'll wait a little bit on that. And let's take a look at the other one. How's our yellow coverage? We have a spot right there. Don't tell anybody. Hopefully there'll be a decal go right over that spot. That's looking pretty good. Maybe a little bit more up in there, but when it's assembled and you have the ladder coming down, you'll never see it. I think that one's good. Go back to number 2. So it looks like we're pretty well dry now. Again, I'm really concerned about the ends, getting enough coverage up in there, and then getting coverage coming down on the windows. This side is still wet. Yikes, that end is still wet. I'm going to try a little bit more up in here. Dry. I'm going to say good at this point. I'm looking at how's the coverage and is it drying. Still looks like there's a little bit of shadowing up in there, but again, you'll never see it on the layout. It'll be like that. Don't tell anybody. Alright, all that's left is cleanup time. Not my favorite. Now, while I'm starting to clean up, let me just explain to you briefly what my compressor setup is. So my airbrush is a single action. It's a Paasche H series. This, I think, is my third Paasche in 42 years, 43 years. I have to replace them every once in a while because I use them a lot. And then coming down into the mess underneath, there's my air regulator going down into, it's a simple Craftsman Sears, what is it, 3/4 horsepower compressor. And this is an air regulator I got from Sears many years ago, and I had to get a couple of fittings here to go into the airbrush hose. And this is a desiccant or a dryer right here, and this is supposed to get out particulates, but it also takes out the moisture in the line. And I have a valve up here. It doesn't work exactly. I've learned it's I have to run it up at around 40 to 60 psi, but it's not actually putting out 40 to 60 psi at the airbrush. So that's my setup. Okay, welcome back to the next stage in the painting process. We got to do some masking today. I'm just noticing some of the issues with the finish that I put on yesterday. That was yesterday. I know it's a few seconds ago for you. Yeah, when I cleaned the airbrush at the end of yesterday's painting session, it was filthy. There was a lot of junk in there. So I'm going to start off the masking process. This is just 3M painter's tape with professional painter's tape. And yeah, this is what I use for most of my masking. And I need to mask right along there, and I think along the bottom edge here should be green as well. Okay, I'm not going to make you watch all of this because I think you'll get the point real quick. Got to make sure I'm in camera here. Really hard to do with the camera right over my shoulder. Okay, so I just found out that the tape is wider than the area I want to paint. So what I do now is I could slice it with a X-Acto knife, or I could just rip it down the center here. It isn't going to matter. Put one along the top and one along the bottom. A little low there, I'm going to raise it up. Okay. can see all this. My hands are shaking very much today. Sorry about that. And what I do with it? Someplace here I have a toothpick so that I get a good... There's no little gaps along the edge here. Come on. Trying to get it right along the edge of the roof line. Okay. And remind me later, I'm going to need to put a piece of tape over the top here so we don't get any overspray coming in the back side. Now along the chassis, the underframe. The problem I'm going to have here is those really nice separately applied grab irons are going to let green paint underneath. So I'm going to have to figure out some way to prevent that. See these gaps right there and there. I have to put a little teeny piece of masking tape in there. I'm going to need a piece right there to cover that. So I'll just fast forward through the rest of this. You don't need to watch over my shoulder the whole way. That. Okay, one side done. I still have a little bit of a gap right there to deal with, but I've got a little extra tape right there. I can slice myself off a piece. I'm going to continue down this side. I'll keep you on fast forward now. Okay, there she is, all ready for the paint. One of the things I didn't say when I was taping, I like to progress around the car in one direction. That way, once you start peeling the tape off, well, you'll see when I peel the tape off. It'll be far simpler. Looks like I got a little too much tape. I'm going to have to do some touch-up on the green and yellow down along the underframe here. Okay, the masking is all complete. All that's left is green paint. I have the ladders here on some clips. I have the cupolas sitting above you there. And over to my left I have the underframes, and the bodies are over to your right. So let's get started. I'm going to turn the fan on and things are going to start getting loud and green. Again, this is the Paasche S Southern Green. Probably going to need a fair amount of it. Probably going to have to refill it, I imagine. Luckily, this bottle is not as solid or thick as the other bottle was, the bottle of yellow. But it's still going to need some thinning. I'm going to try a few drops of water and a couple drops of airbrush thinner, Paasche S airbrush thinner. There it is. And as you can see, I only have a few drops left, so. Six drops. Let's see what we can do here. The problem with Paasche S paint is when you try and do this method of stirring it, blowing the air back through, it bubbles up. Come on. I'll try stirring it with a stick here. Yeah. Okay. Air compressor coming back on. It's gonna get loud in here, folks. Okay. Green ladder. Working a lot better now with the clean airbrush. Ladders are done. think? Good coverage? You can see the smokestack needs more, but I'm going to paint that silver, I think, anyways. I think. So as I'm spraying, you'll notice that sometimes I'm shooting up, sometimes I'm shooting down. I want to get all angles around the windows especially. And when spraying things like the ribs on the roof, you want to spray this direction and this direction. Again, so you don't get any shadowing effect on those raised portions. I think we got good coverage on that. And that's it for the green paint. All that's left is the cleanup. And we'll come back tomorrow and put some clear finish on these. As I was cleaning up, I realized you folks might like to see me unveil the paint. So let's do it. It's been about 15-20 minutes since I stopped painting. So mainly what I'm looking for, you know, you're always going to have some touch-up work to do at the end. So I'm going to have to come back and touch up the green along each corner underneath those grab irons. There's a little bit of green up in there I'm going to need to touch up. But there's no overspray that I can see. So that's good. I don't want to see green coming up through the window areas and getting onto the yellow. I also don't want to see the yellow paint lifting up. Oh, there's a little green overspray right there. So it looks like the primer did its job. That was an adhesive primer, by the way. So it's designed to stick to the paint, to the plastic. So our last step to the painting process is going to be putting a semi-gloss or gloss finish on the cars, on the Cabooses. And as you can see, it's really dead flat right now. I spent a little bit of time touching up the green and yellow down here in the bottom. I did a little bit of green touch-up up here in the underside. There were some spots where I missed. So, let's get cracking. There's the Paasche Airbrush, and here's Testors Glosscote is what I use most of the time. I have not tried any water-based clear finishes, just because I've never used them before. Let's turn on the fan. And because this is a lacquer base, I can use lacquer thinner to thin it. So this is a bottle of lacquer, just over-the-counter hardware store lacquer thinner. And you can put lacquer thinner, lacquer paint, or lacquer base paint over the acrylics. I'm gonna turn on the air compressor now. Just mixing up the paint, and let's hit it. I'm trying to shine the light off of the side of the caboose. I want to make sure that we have at least a semi-gloss look to it. I'm not seeing it very glossy at all, so I'm going to put another coat on. You notice as I put the clear finish on, especially the green got a little bit darker. That's one of the reasons why I put it, even though I'm not putting decals on the roof or on the cupola, I want to put a coat of the semi-gloss or the gloss coat over the whole thing so we get a uniform finish. After it's decaled, I'm going to put a coat of flat finish or Testors dull coat. Here it is. I'll put a coat of Testors dull coat on it when I'm done. But for now, that's the end of the painting process. I hope you've learned a few things from this video. If you have, please leave a thumbs up down below. And if you have any suggestions or comments, please leave them down there too. I answer all questions and I read all the questions. Yeah. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you have fun in your model railroading out there. Bye for now. Just as a short addendum to that video, I should have mentioned that to clean up, especially something clear like that, all I use is a little bit of lacquer thinner. And run it through the airbrush. Clean the tip off a little bit. Make sure there's nothing stuck to the tip. And run it through the airbrush. See, it's all empty now. Then I use a Q-tip. Make sure there's no paint down in there. Wipe the inside of the cup with a paper towel. And she should be all set for the next paint job. Now from time to time, oh, I don't know, depends on colors, but every few times that I paint, I'll take the whole thing apart, remove the cone and the tip, and put them in the cup and wash them out, clean them out with lacquer thinner.